Hi everybody, this is my 2004 GX470. It's September 2023. Went off-roading last weekend, did some deep river crossings, and I've run across a grounding issue. I'll show you what I mean. So when I try to unlock or lock, gives me a hard, there it goes, gives me a hard time. Okay, got it unlocked. Okay, so I already cleaned out the terminals. I even sanded down some of the paint there on the inside fender for that ground. Battery is fine, getting 12.6 volts, but when I try to crank it, this is what happens. Okay, sometimes I'll get a little click. I'm not getting anything right now. Oh, there it goes. Okay, sometimes it'll take a while, and then if I hold it, it'll actually start. Okay, so we're gonna try something here. Okay, so unfortunately, the ground goes down into this bundle here, and I can't really tell where it goes. I guess I will investigate further, but for now, what I've done is I've got my jumper cable connected to the ground, negative, on the battery, and the other end is connected to a bolt right on the frame itself. So we'll give it a shot and see what happens. Okay, so I am getting the click. There it goes. Okay, so it clicked. Took a couple of seconds, maybe like about a second or so. So it took about a second or so, and by me holding it down, and then eventually it cranked over. And as you can tell, it cranked over right away. The battery is healthy. I'm suspecting something happened with that ground cable. It's loose somewhere, so we're gonna see if we can figure out how to either add an additional ground or clean that one up. It's got to be bolted to the chassis or the frame or the engine somewhere. Let's see if I could find it. Okay, I found the ground cable, where it goes. So like I said, one goes to the body right there, the other one goes down into this bundle here. We'll follow it through. All right, let's look under here. You can see. Let's go under the... So there's a half shaft right behind it. There it is right there. Point it out. That right there. Okay. So it's bolted to the to the engine, to the block. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clean that out, remove it, sand it down, clean it out, put it back in, and see if that'll do the trick. If not, I would have to replace it or add an additional ground. Okay, so here's another way to view it from the wheel well itself. Get down in there, you can see the block. Oh, there it is right there. Okay, so I'm gonna see if I can reach it from here, because it's a little bit hard getting to it down there from the bottom. So let's see if I can get it from out here with a real long extension. Okay, I cleaned it up, but I also believe that that ground wire also connects to the frame somewhere down there. So it's got two connections down there. I'm not sure exactly where, but I know one's going to the block, one's going to the frame. So I cleaned out the one going to the block. Let's give it a try. Guys, removing the part of the split shield, I found another area where it's grounded. There it is right there, and that's that big bundle coming from the battery itself. That's the frame, and it's seems a little bit small, but that's got to be it. So I'm going to go ahead and clean that one out as well. Okay, so after I clean it with the brush, I spray some of this electronic cleaner. Then I put a little bit of dielectric grease on it, and I'm going to put that back together. Everything's nice and clean now. All right, let's give it another try. Voila! That's what I want to hear. Firing up right away. All right, so there we go. Let me turn off the car. So for some reason there was very little information as far as where the grounds were for this thing. They are kind of hidden, but now that I know, I'll go ahead and drive it around like this for a while. I know it's an old car, almost 20 years old, so if it starts giving me issues, I can replace that ground. I know where the grounding points are, so it shouldn't be an issue replacing that. But for now, cleaning seems to have done the trick, so I'll keep you posted if anything else changes. Thank you. Okay, update guys. 2 days later, started doing it again, so I'm gonna go ahead and replace the ground cable. Already disconnected it from the battery and from the frame, from the fender here. So I'm gonna have to unravel all of this here, all the way down in there, and remove the ground cable completely, so that way I can know exactly where it's connected to. I know there's a connection point right there, right on the frame here. There's one, and then there's one on the engine. There might be some others. We'll see. Okay, so I finally got it out. It's a little bit of a pain because, like I said, it's just kind of jammed in there, and it's got that inner duct, that plastic conduit type of thing where it's wrapped with the positive cable that goes to the starter as well. So there's a T down there, and but you know, it took me about I don't know, 20 minutes to get this out. It's about 57 inches long, the thick one. Looks like maybe 6 or 4 gauge, I don't know. And then the thinner one that goes from the block over to the frame is 36 inches or 3 feet. So, and then of course it's got this little T right here where it goes to the inside of the frame, the fender. Let me hit the auto parts store, see if they've got anything that I can use. Yeah, by the way, I did cut it, you know, at the bottom. It just made it easier to kind of like slip it through, so I didn't have to undo every single piece of that inner duct. There was some sections where it was kind of taped onto the positive wire, so I did have to open it up, but I mean, I just cut it. I mean, I'm going to replace it anyways. You know, it was split open on the bottom. There is some corrosion, obviously. I mean, it's a 20-year-old, you know. So hopefully this will do the trick, replacing this. Okay, so I bought a couple of cables, 60-inch and a 12-inch. The 60-inch is going to go from the battery all the way down to the block, and the shorter one is going to go from the battery to the inside fender. And then I made a 3-foot one myself. That's the one that goes from the block to the frame. Much thicker cable than what was there, so slight of an upgrade. All right, let's go ahead and install these. Okay, so good news and bad news. Good news is I've got all new grounds. You can see this going all the way down here. We got the new one there. Bad news is it's still doing it. I even put a new battery terminal on the positive side, thinking that was it. Tested the wires. I even cut back a little bit to check the condition. It's not bad. So I am suspecting it's going to be the starter. So I'm going to go ahead and test that. It's a little bit difficult since it's way in there, but there are a few things I can try. Okay, so this is how I'm going to test the starter. I removed the cover for the fuse box here. There's a purple relay here. If you look at the cover, it's STA, which stands for starter. So that's your starter relay. When you turn the key, it sends a signal to this relay, and then this relay in turn will close its contacts send 12 volts to the starter solenoid, which will then engage the starter motor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this and bypass it and put 12 volts directly to it. So it's going to go straight from the battery straight to the starter, bypassing the ignition. Give that a shot. Okay, so now it's off. You can see the different terminals there. Let me point out what's what here. Hold on a second. Okay, so this one here is constant 12 volts. That one's coming from the battery itself right there. This one here, which is not on right now, but that's a signal coming from the ignition switch. So when you turn that key all the way, it engages, it sends 12 volts here, that engages a starter. This is your ground. This one over here, that's the wire that goes to the starter solenoid. So this is where we're going to apply 12 volts to right here. Got this small little wire with the little spade bit there, so I'm gonna, I don't know how to see, so I'm gonna stick that in there. Okay, so now if I apply positive 12 volts to that, should engage the starter. I'm just gonna do it. I got my jumper cables here. Let me see if I can position this so you can see. All right, here goes. Got 12 volts here. Okay, so as you can see, it looks like it starts fine, and then there's a delay. I do hear the solenoid clicking, so power is getting there. So either two things are happening: either the contact at the starter is bad, you know, either way. I mean, you know, you got to get to the starter, or the starter itself is starting to go bad. Namely the solenoid. Usually the starter motors are good. I mean, once it starts spinning, it spins fine. So looks like, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to do the nasty and go ahead and remove all of the intake manifold. And I know there's some videos on how to do it on Tundras and similar vehicles, so it should be fairly the same, but I guess that'll be my next video. But at least now I kind of know it's the starter. Okay, this is a 2004 GX470. I'm going to go ahead and replace the starter. There's quite a few videos out there for Tundras, you know, other vehicles with the same V8, but there's some slight differences. So first things first, as you all know, you have to remove the intake manifold. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the throttle body assembly. You can see the 2 bolts here, and then it's got 2 screws on the bottom. So this hose here needs to be disconnected. Obviously the connector. I'm going to remove the whole intake air box and everything, so I can use that space there to get in and climb in there. So I'm going to go ahead and start with that. There's a hose there that needs to be removed. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's pretty self-explanatory. The ground cable, probably the connectors, maybe this whole sensor here. I'll take that out. Let's get started. All right, so I got the throttle body off to the side, took the air box off. There's quite a few hoses and connectors that you have to remove. It's pretty self-explanatory once you start looking at it. I label all the connectors and hoses, or at least the ones that are smaller, usually the obvious ones. I won't, or I'll take a picture. Well, looks like we have to remove this crossover fuel rail. A line that goes from one side to the other. That one right there, it goes under. It's attached to the intake manifold there. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove that, and then see what else needs to be removed. I might need to remove that fuel rail, maybe not. I might be able to get it out, or maybe at least just removing one side, maybe. We'll see. Okay, actually, instead of disconnecting that that fuel crossover there. So what I'm going to do is disconnect the fuel line completely. So the fuel rail, the GX470 is connected to this type of connector here. And you can see it, so it's got these push buttons on each side. So you push those and wiggle that off. And then it's got, I guess, the return, and the return looks like it's got some simple clamps there. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove that. Okay, I was surprised at how easily this came off. You see, you just squeeze both ends, kind of wiggled it off, and this came off the rail right here. And then the return just popped out real easily. I disconnected the fuel injector connectors. Very easy to remove. You can either use some needle nose pliers or with your finger push on that tab right there. Just push, and it doesn't take much at all. They came off quite easily. So disconnected a ground here, cable harness here, and I think I'm ready to loosen up the intake manifold. Got nuts on the front, no pun intended, and then bolts, or looks like you could also stick a Torx in there too. See if I can zoom in a little bit there. There we go. So I'm gonna see if I could put a nut. Looks like maybe a 13. We'll see. Okay, I removed the bolts and the nuts. Surprisingly, especially on the other side, the two front ones were like very loose. So I don't know if that was causing some issues or not. The other thing I did was this harness here. To get it on the other side, you have to disconnect these two connectors to the coil packs. Then you can swing this over, and then that'll give you more room to get that out. It's loose. I just got to see if anything else is left stuck in there. If not, I'll go ahead and pull this thing out. Okay, that was it. I climbed in through this side and kind of fed it out towards the passenger side, because it still has that hose attached to it for the fuel. So you just kind of have to snake that out, but relatively simple. So just looking inside, and it doesn't look too bad. I mean, kind of see the valves in there. And my goodness, look at that. So a little bit of history. This car is a 2004 and it has about 257,000 miles on it. You ask me, I mean, that's looks like the factory original starter. This the California car, so probably owned by a soccer mom. Looks pretty clean in here. I'm gonna cover those up with some paper, vacuum this up, remove these two bolts here, so I can move this harness out of the way, and have access to the bolts behind here, the starter. I think I can see one of the bolts right there. That's one, and the other one's got to be in there somewhere. Okay, let's get to it. All right, quick update. As you guys know, it's difficult to get to the bolts behind there. You might not want to remove this little crossover pipe here, but I mean, it's 4 screws. I mean, 4 nuts, and then this comes off. And then you have much easier access to it. So, you know, just make sure that this is sealed correctly. Again, I don't know if I'm gonna need some new gaskets or not, but we'll see. All right, quick update. Yeah, okay, so the starter's out. Removing that crossover for the cooling system was key. I mean, without removing that, I mean, you're really gonna struggle. I mean, I know it's, you know, it's part of the cooling system, you don't want to do it or whatever, but man, it just, once I remove that, I mean, it's pretty much a no-brainer, and I mean, it was fairly simple after that. So let's get this cleaned up and get the new one in. Okay, so here's a new one I got from DB Electrical, brand new. about 115 from Amazon. You can see the Bendix part. It's pretty smooth. And then the old one, you could actually hear it. It's kind of hard. There you go. So that's what was happening. It was just taking a long time for that thing to start spinning. So, all right, let's get the new one in. All right, I'm putting everything back together again, and I went ahead and I'm going to replace the heater hoses. But just want to give you a quick advice. Don't be a fool like me. The old hoses, I twisted them off like I normally do, but this is very soft aluminum, so it deformed the actual pipe a little bit. And then there's a splice here, this one, and then there's a hose that goes from here to that pipe over there. So the splice is this, and I kind of strained it out a little bit, but it was really bad. So I went to a couple of auto parts store, I couldn't find it, so this is gonna work right here. I went to Home Depot. It's a 5/8 barbed coupling. You could either get it from the like the brass fittings where they have all the fittings, or this one's a little bit less expensive. This is to replace repair garden hose. It'll work. You'll see right now when I put it in, it fits real nice, and it's brass. Don't put a plastic one in there. So that's how it's gonna look when it's in there, and then obviously with a clamp on there, it'll be fine. I've used brass couplings many times before, and then they're fine. Just don't use plastic or steel, you know, obviously, because it'll rust. So what I should have done with the old one is just gotten my knife and just cut it out, and that would have been less destructive. I have a bad habit of saving the old hoses, carrying them in an emergency kit just in case, but it's probably not worth it this time. So just advice, cut the old one out, put the new one in, you'll be fine. Okay guys, it's back together. Took me a little bit longer to put it back, only because I did some silly things. I broke a connector or two and had to fix those, and then you know, replace the hoses as well. So you know, and I had to look for that coupling or that splice, but I got new hoses there. Let's give it a shot. Okay, as you guys can see, I mean, it fired right away. I mean, no hesitation, no delay, no hard starting. So, yeah, I mean, I guess we can call this a fix. Definitely, you're gonna see about maybe repairing the old one, remanufacturing it and keeping it as a spare, or I don't know what I'll do, but I'm glad that was it. Got some new hoses in there. Ready to go. A couple of lessons that were learned. Definitely pick up a magnetic pickup tool. The rest can be done just with regular tools. It does help to remove that crossover coolant pipe at the back. I mean, it's just so much easier that way. Now you're going to be struggling big time. It helps to remove the air box. I use that a lot. I was basically sitting inside there. Okay, and lastly, you know, careful with the connectors. You know, like I said, I messed two of them up that prolonged the repair. Make sure that you purge the system after, or burp it, you know, get rid of all the air. There's lots of videos on how to do that if you don't know how. At the end, it really wasn't that hard. I really wouldn't, you know, it wasn't that much of a headache. I've done a lot worse. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but you know, you're on top and everything kind of comes out more or less. Like I said, removing that coolant pipe on the back is key, I think. So what started out as what I thought it was a weak battery, and then I thought it was a bad ground. Ended up being the starter at the end of the day, but at least I know my battery's good, and I've got some new cables in there, new ground cables. So on to the next one.